All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to pull back the curtain on the world of cyber attacks. We're talking about how hackers actually operate, the real tools, the actual methods they use to cause chaos, steal data, and trick people. Let's get into their playbook. It always feels like something out of a movie, doesn't it? A person in a dark room, furiously typing, and boom, they're in. But it's not magic, not at all. It's a set of very specific, very understandable techniques. And today, we're going to break them all down. So here's how we're going to tackle this. We've got 5 parts. We'll start with the loud, brute force stuff I'm calling crashing the gates. Then we'll get sneaky with the digital heist. After that, we'll look at hacking the human, which is a huge one. Then we'll get into cracking the code on passwords. And finally, we'll peek inside the hacker's toolkit. Sound good? Let's go. First up, the sledgehammer. Seriously, these attacks aren't about being clever or quiet. They are all about brute force. The goal here is to just totally overwhelm a website or a server with so much junk traffic that it just gives up. It grinds to a halt and real users can't get in. Okay, so you've probably heard of DOS and DDoS. Here's the simple difference. A denial of service, or DOS attack, is like one person creating a traffic jam on a single-lane road. It's annoying, but you can usually spot the source. A distributed denial of service, a DDoS attack, that's citywide gridlock. We're talking thousands, even millions of infected computers, a botnet, all attacking at once from all over the world. Way, way harder to stop. But it's not always just about raw volume. Some of these overload attacks are actually incredibly clever. Take this SYN flood. This one is really interesting because it attacks the most basic process of how 2 computers on the internet say hello to each other. And here's exactly how it works. Normally, your computer and a server do a little 3-step dance to connect. It's called a 3-way handshake. Well, an attacker sends step 1, the SYN request, over and over again. The server politely replies and saves a little spot for the connection to be completed. But the attacker just ghosts it. They never reply back. By doing this thousands of times, the attacker leaves the server holding all these half-open connections until it just runs out of memory for actual legitimate users. Okay, so we've seen the loud brute force attacks. Now let's move into the shadows. This next group of attacks is all about being sneaky. It's the digital version of a heist movie, all about intercepting information or tricking a system into giving up its most valuable secrets. The man-in-the-middle attack is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Imagine a nosy mail carrier who opens your letters, reads them, maybe even changes a few words, then seals them back up and sends them along. You'd never know. That's what this is. And this is why everyone tells you not to do your online banking on public coffee shop Wi-Fi. An attacker can literally place themselves between you and the router, listening to everything. Now, this one's different. Instead of eavesdropping, what if you could just talk directly to the website's brain, its database, and ask it to hand everything over? That, in a nutshell, is a SQL injection. Attackers find a place where you can type something in, like a search bar or a login form, and instead of typing a name, they type a command for the database. And honestly, the way this works can be just shockingly simple. This little line of code is a classic. By typing it into a password field, the attacker is basically changing the logic of the login. The system now asks, is the password correct, or is 1 equal to 1? Well, 1 always equals 1, so the system says, yep, that's true, and just lets them in. No password needed. It's crazy. Cross-site scripting, or XSS, is a little bit of a mind-bender. This attack doesn't really target the website itself, it targets the website's visitors. The hacker cleverly injects a malicious piece of code into a totally legitimate web page, maybe in the comments section. Then, when you come to visit that page, the malicious script runs inside your web browser. The website becomes the weapon. So what can a script like that actually do? Well, as you can see here, one of the main goals is to steal something called a session cookie. Think of a cookie as your temporary login pass for a website. It's what keeps you logged in so you don't have to enter your password on every single page. If a hacker can steal that cookie, they can use it to impersonate you, getting full access to your account. And that brings us to a really important point. After all the complex code and firewalls, sometimes the weakest link isn't the technology at all. It's us, the person sitting at the keyboard. This next section is all about attacks that rely on good old-fashioned deception and trickery. Oh yeah, we've all seen this one. Phishing is basically the art of the digital fake-out. You get that urgent email that looks like it's from your bank or from Amazon or Netflix saying, "There's a problem with your account. Click here to fix it." But that link doesn't go to the real site. It goes to a perfect copycat site designed for one thing and one thing only: to steal your username and password when you type them in. And this con game comes in all sorts of flavors. Spoofing is the technical term for making an email or a website look like it came from someone you trust. When a phishing attack is super targeted, using your name and personal details, that's called spear phishing. If the scam comes as a text message, it's smishing. And if they call you on the phone, it's vishing. But whatever they call it, the goal's the same: to trick you. Okay, so what if an attacker can't trick you into giving up your password? What's plan B? Well, they'll just try to break it. This next part is all about going after our main line of defense: the password itself. This little table really shows the evolution of password cracking. You start with brute force. That's literally just trying every single possible combination. It works, but it's super slow. A dictionary attack is a bit smarter. It tries common words and passwords. But the really powerful one is a rainbow table attack. It uses a massive, pre-calculated cheat sheet of passwords to find a match almost instantly. The best defense against that is something called salting. It just adds a bit of random data to your password before it gets stored, which makes those pre-made cheat sheets totally useless. All right, we're in the home stretch. For our last section, let's do a quick lightning round of the other stuff you'd find in a hacker's toolkit. This is the malicious software and the strategies that really power a lot of the attacks we've already talked about. First, malware. A virus is a bit like the flu. It has to attach itself to a program to spread. A worm is crazier. It can spread all by itself across a whole network. A Trojan horse is exactly what it sounds like. It pretends to be something useful to trick you into letting it in. Then you have spyware, which just watches you, and a rootkit, which is like an invisibility cloak for all the other malware. And this is so important to remember. The really big professional attacks don't start with a bang. They start with a whisper. They start with reconnaissance. It's the homework phase. The attacker gathers intel on their target, learning everything they can from public sources or by quietly probing their network for any little crack they can exploit. We talked about this a minute ago, but it's such a huge goal for attackers that it's worth its own spot. Session hijacking is the payoff. It's what happens after that cross-site scripting attack works and they steal your session cookie. This is the moment they take over your account and can do anything you could do without ever needing your password. So I know that was a ton of information. To help tie it all together, here's a really simple way to think about it. You can basically sort all these attacks into 5 main buckets: network attacks, web attacks, human attacks, password attacks, and the malware that does the dirty work. It's just a simple framework to help make sense of it all. And that brings us right to the end. We've seen the tools, the tricks, the whole playbook. But knowing all of this, it brings up a really important question. When attacks can target our networks, our code, and even our own brains, who is really the first line of defense? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning into The Explainer.